One's ready. One's ready. Go!
Hey everybody, welcome back to the One's Ready podcast. You're in the team room. This is your daily drop for the 29th of April. You guys know it because I keep saying it, and I'm going to keep saying it until we're all filled up, which is going to be here pretty soon. We have the Operator Training Summit coming up in San Diego, June 21st and 22nd. It's open to all, any fitness level. You can be active duty, you can be a recruit, you can be having not even talked to a recruiter. That's fine too. You don't have to be 18 either. You can be 16 or whatever. You'll just need parental waiver and all that kind of good stuff. But it's not a hell week. It's not a smoke session or anything like that. But we are going to intentionally train you for 2 days on rucking, running, calisthenics, attributes. And we've got 10 or 12 hours scheduled in the pool right now, like doing all underwater, mask snorkel, treading water. Let's see what else, buddy breathing, bobbing or drown proofing and all that kind of good stuff. And then I've got something special planned for the end. So make sure you sign up. And if you want to sign up and for more details and secure your spot, join us over on the chat. But in order to do that, you actually have to either put a comment with your email address, or you can email me at jared@onesready.com and just tell me that you're interested in the Operator Training Summit or the OTS, and I will shoot you the link. All right, here we go. If you guys are new here, this is the news that gets curated by public affairs for the Department of the Air Force and then sent out to all the commanders and all the chiefs. I've run it through AI just to give you a quick down and dirty on each one of these, because if not, the entire thing is about 10 pages long. So here it is. We'll start with joint news. Houthi attack capabilities degraded. U.S. Central Command's Operation Rough Rider has significantly reduced the Houthi attacks on Red Sea shipping, with ballistic missile strikes down 69% and drone attacks down 55%. The campaign has targeted Houthi leadership, command facilities, and air defense, weakening their operational capacity. Yet we got to keep the Red Sea shipping lanes open, just like every other shipping lane, because all of that commercial cargo vessels are incredibly important. And if you don't think they are, then just look at what happened with the Suez Canal when it got blocked. And there was something else, now I'm thinking about it, where there were a whole bunch of shipping containers and fuel ships off the coast of LA that couldn't get in. And I can't remember why that was. But anyway, so yeah, it's extremely important, and that's what the U.S. Navy is the best at. All right, next. Trump's military law enforcement order. President Trump ordered Defense Secretary and Attorney General to explore using military assets and personnel to support domestic law enforcement despite Posse Comitatus Act restrictions. The executive order also mandates legal protections for officers and penalties for officials obstructing criminal law. I'm guessing, even though it doesn't say this, that it has to do with the Insurrection Act that's coming up, or that they were going to vote on, which has been enacted a handful of times, I think about 5 other times in history. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out of that, because even for me, trying to understand and decipher the difference between Posse Comitatus Act, Insurrection Act, and martial law, it's, and I'm just not that smart at that kind of stuff. So maybe I just need to take a little time and do some research on it. Next, medical waiver review. The Defense Department will review medical waiver standards for recruits in May following a directive from the Defense Secretary. The review responds to eased restrictions in 2022 for conditions like asthma, ADHD, prompted by post-COVID recruiting shortfalls. I actually think that this is a good thing. I think that the military, and please, if you disagree with me, ping us in the comments. I'm happy to discuss, just because from what I've seen, and it's all really only from what I've seen since we started the podcast for the last 5 years is because the amount of messages that we have gotten from potential recruits and or parents saying, hey, my kid was diagnosed with ADHD or was misdiagnosed with ADHD, but spent so much of their childhood on whatever medications, and now they're permanently disqualified from serving in the Air Force or other DoD branches. Same with asthma, because a lot of times asthma or allergies will present itself as asthma, but then when they move to a different part of the country, then it magically goes away. So there, I'm not going to hate on doctors in the medical community. However, they absolutely deserve it, especially everything that they did with COVID. But, you know, the Air Force is trying to, in the military, is trying to pump so many people in that oftentimes they won't take the time to actually truly diagnose something. They'll just go, oh, look at you. You have asthma. Like, I know that we just got a message a couple of days ago, actually, from a father whose son is in awaiting training, basically, because he has bad allergies in San Antonio and also had COVID at the time. But the doctors said, oop, he's got asthma. Now they're trying to kick him out of the Air Force. So he's trying to fight it and that kind of stuff. But here's the thing is he's a brand new recruit, right? So he doesn't have the history. It is easier for the Air Force to just go, dude, let's bounce this person. Let's not actually do a due diligence and try and retain this person and see if it's actually asthma or maybe it's allergies plus the fact he had COVID. So, I think this is a great thing. All right, next, delays in assault and suicide prevention. Personnel cuts at the Pentagon will delay initiatives to address sexual assault, suicide, and behavioral health, raising concerns from Senators Murkowski and Gillibrand. The Defense Department remains committed to its sexual assault prevention and response goals despite setbacks. I think it's probably a little bit short-sighted to say that there will ever be an assault and suicide prevention. Like it's always going to happen, and it's terrible, and it never should happen. But it's about getting swift and true justice against the offenders. And if you're a false accuser, then you should also receive swift and true justice as well, because you can't go around ending people's lives and ending people's careers off of allegations because you're upset. Next, and that does happen, by the way. All right, next, Hegseth's War Department proposal. Defense Secretary proposed renaming the Defense Department to the War Department, potentially signaling a shift towards less adherence to law of armed conflict. Critics warn this reflects Hegseth's prior writings advocating for the military to fight its own rules to win. Fighting by its own rules to win. The U.S. follows Geneva Conventions. It has its own, it has a global law of armed conflict. A lot of the conflicts that we are in, the rules are not followed from the opposing side. And hey, the U.S. also breaks some rules as well, sometimes on purpose, sometimes on accident, and that's why we end up having 15-6s. And we bend over backwards to try and make sure we don't do things incorrectly. And if we do, that we try and make them right, or as right as we possibly can. But it's not war and conflict is not great. It can be fun at times, certainly, but it is not great. So I don't know how I feel about the fight by its own rules. I just know that shit's not fair, and maybe playing by our own rules is the right message. But if we do that, we also have to be prepared for a whole lot of scrutiny, and getting called out on BS that we may or may have not have done. So, all right, next, Commissary transformation plans. The Defense Commissary Agency aims to enhance customer benefits by adopting commercial grocery chain practices while maintaining 25% savings costs, or cost savings. Director John Hall sees the Pentagon's upheaval as an opportunity to transform DECA, who runs and owns all of the commissaries, with minimal impact on hiring freezes. I guess my question is it's 2025. How are you guys just now implementing commercial grocery store chain practices? Like, what have you been doing the last however many years? Like, and I don't even shop at the commissary because it doesn't make sense for me to, because they still put a surcharge onto. So all this money that people think they're spending, and I don't know, like I haven't done the math, but I just know that if I have to drive 20 minutes to get to base, to go to the commissary, to then also have a surcharge put on there, I'm burning up the gas that I'm driving. Plus I got to drive 20 minutes back. Am I actually saving that much money rather than going to Smith's or Safeway or Kroger or Walmart or whatever to do my grocery shopping? Like, we're not talking about the difference between Walmart and Whole Foods prices, right? We're talking about your standard food chains or grocery store chains in a commissary. Like, I don't know. It's kind of weird to me. All right, next, Air Force specific news. Infrastructure spending dispute. Air Force Chief of Staff David Alvin criticized Congress for mandating increased spending on excess infrastructure, arguing it diverts funds from warfighting readiness. The Senate Armed Service Committee defended the FY25 NDAA's unanimous vote to boost plant replacement value spending, highlighting quality of life concerns. So I'll be honest, I basically just read that and I didn't fully understand what it's saying. And I think even after rereading it right now while talking to you, I still don't quite understand what they mean by this. So, increase spending. So we do need to increase spending. So in regards to infrastructure and why infrastructure is the way it is, not just with military facilities, but base housing and stuff like that, is we have spent, between 2001 and whenever we pulled out of Afghanistan, what is it, 2022, I think, 2021, whatever it was, we basically were so focused on warfighting and operations and funding that kind of stuff that we neglected a whole bunch of stuff. We neglected modernization of the force in terms of aircraft, modernization of the force in terms of effective training. We we neglected communications, computer infrastructure, buildings. We neglected everything because we were so focused on being out the door and going and getting after things that we neglected a whole bunch of stuff. And now we're trying to play catch up. And these kind of things take time and they're expensive while we're trying to fund CCAs, Next Generation Air Dominance, F-47s, B-21s. We're trying to put more stuff in space. We're trying to, Army's still trying to buy tanks. Navy's still trying to buy ships or build ships, So like we're overcommitted on spending now, but infrastructure, if you have terrible infrastructure, then the rest of it is kind of a moot point in my opinion. But anyway. All right, Ramstein Mental Health Program. The Military Aviator Peer Support Program at Ramstein Air Force Base offers aircrew a confidential space to address mental health, countering a lie to fly culture. Studies show over 50% of military and civilian pilots avoided healthcare due to fears of losing their flight status. I can confirm that, and that's not just from a mental health aspect, but from just hey, I have a cold or I'm not feeling well. And that's not just for flyers. That is for all of us. Most of us that are operational will straight up lie to make sure that we are still able to train, still able to deploy, still able to go on training trips. And we will just suffer through the pain or suffer through the illness or whatever it is so that we don't risk losing our status. Like that, we absolutely do that. And the healthcare community knows that we do it. But that's also another reason why we avoid going to them, because they can't be trusted. Not all of them, of course, but just some of these doctors are so quick to take you off the status for something that is so minuscule. Next, court-martial outcome for crash. Staff Sergeant Rebecca Wright convicted of negligent homicide in a fatal crash at Klein-Brogel Air Force Base. I don't know where that is. Klein-Brogel? Received $2,600 fine and reprimand, but avoided demotion. Wright, or Sergeant Wright, who was stabbed after the incident, pleaded guilty in a summary court martial at Ramstein. Holy cow, I have not heard about this. So not only convicted in negligent homicide after a crash, but that she was stabbed afterwards? Like, this is bonkers. Afterwards, I'm going to go look this story up. Like, this is crazy. Whoa. All right, Space Force news. This one's light today. ISS resupply mission. The Space Systems Command and NASA launched a mission from Cape Canaveral, delivering 5 DoD and 1 NASA experiment to the International Space Station. The STP-H10 mission supports future Space Force capabilities through innovative data collection in low Earth orbit. Dude, I swear, there's like things launching every freaking day. It's wild. All right. This is of interest. Let me snag some water real quick. All right. Ukraine-Russia peace talks. President Trump suggested Ukraine and Russia are nearing a peace deal involving Crimea's secession. While Secretary of State Rubio cautioned that talks are not yet finalized, Russian demands include no Western aid to Ukraine, with this week deemed critical for negotiations. I think we all probably saw President Trump and Zelensky at the Pope's funeral in the middle of a room with 2 chairs facing each other, like pretty close together. Like, however you feel politically, doesn't matter. That is a pretty incredible photo and a pretty incredible like moment in history. Like, it's pretty wild. So we'll see what happens with it all. Next, Selfridge fighter mission hope. Michigan senators expressed optimism about President Trump's commitment to assign a new fighter mission to Selfridge Air National Guard Base. Trump's remarks followed discussions with state officials to replace the retiring A-10 Thunderbolt mission. Cool. Well, everybody wants a mission, and everybody needs a mission. There's no point in having a bunch of people around just sitting. Next, women in combat debate. Defense Secretary removal of advisory committees. Man, I'm having issues today. Women in combat debate. Defense Secretary's removal of an advisory committee member has raised concerns about reversing women's combat roles, potentially harming recruitment and retention. Advocates warn that reopening the debate could undermine decades of progress for women in the military. Man, did you guys see that grandma that is now suing the U.S. Navy because she wants to be a SEAL? Like, if you guys haven't seen that, I know that Jake Zwig hit it. I think Jameson Travels hit it. Like, it's good. It's worth a watch. Go check those guys out, and it's hilarious. It's a good laugh. All right. I don't even know. Feres doctrinal change. The widow of an NCO killed in 2021 on a base crash. Oh man. In an on-base crash in 2021 at Whiteman Air Force Base is seeking Supreme Court review of her wrongful death suit, blocked by the Feres Doctrine. The doctrine bars active duty members from suing the government for service-related injuries, death. Oh, okay. So that kind of makes sense then. I'm just not saying that right. But at the same time, yeah, if you guys weren't tracking, you can't, right now, as it sits, you can't sue the military for things. Like, at least when you're an active duty person, you can't do that. And it's a shame. Same with medical malpractice and that kind of stuff. Like, if you're an active duty member and you receive treatment from another active duty medical care professional, you can't sue them for malpractice if they completely botch the surgery or botch the operation. Not great, because then there's no accountability, right? All right, next DUI crash conviction. A Colorado jury convicted Paul Stevenson of murder for a DUI crash that killed Air Force Lieutenant Colonel Matthew Anderson, a pilot and a father of 4. The conviction sends a strong deterrent message with sentencing set for the 3rd of July. That's unfortunate. Father of 4. Damn. Commercial space lessons. The Space Force must align requirements with the commercial capabilities, promote acquisition, competition, and consider companies' financial health for national security per the SmallSat Alliance. These lessons are critical for the future Guardians to defend and win in space conflicts. Cool. I don't really know what that means. Nope, 2 more. Procurement safeguard concerns. Trump's executive orders reducing procurement competition increase risk of fraud, waste, and abuse in the Pentagon's $1 trillion spending plans. The orders favor legacy contractors and administration allies, undermining fair evaluations, according to a former Senate counsel. Man, $1 trillion. That's crazy. Think about it. That's big boy money right there. All right, last one. Data-driven warfare critique. Over-reliance on quantitative metrics has diminished Pentagon lethality, as seen in Vietnam, Afghanistan, and the F-35 program, obscuring cultural and political realities. The DoD must reconsider its data-centric approach to improve decision-making and effectiveness in modern conflicts. Yeah, I agree. And, I can't speak for the Army or the Navy or the Marines, but I can speak for the Air Force. Or at least my opinion. It is my opinion, not the Air Force's opinion, but having been in the Air Force for 25 plus years, the Air Force is very thing and widget oriented. It's not people oriented. No matter how much they say, oh, people first and mission always, or whatever, there's mission first, people always, whatever the slogan is. But we've always been more focused on things and not people. And we tend to forget as an Air Force. SOCOM typically doesn't do this because they know and they recognize that people are the most important asset. But the Air Force loves to get new widgets, but then they'll neglect, just like they did for infrastructure and housing and stuff like that, they'll neglect actual people in terms of taking care of it. So that's a real critique of what the Air Force, and hopefully that culture is changing, but it's a massive cultural shift, and we got to get away from these slogans and actually show people and start letting people see that they are actually first and actually prioritized. So that's my 2 cents. Anyway, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and then leave a comment or shoot me an email if you are interested in joining us at the Operator Training Summit. Later.